I'm Caitlin, and welcome to the Lit Review. Today I'm introducing my year-long project of a TBR game. This is Litland. This has been my little craft project in the last couple of months. It's based off the original Candyland from like the mid-80s to the early 90s. Now, TBR games are a bit of a hot ticket right now in BookTube. I really love watching everybody's creativity come out. I know I'm not the first person to mess around with Candyland, but specifically when I was inspired by this, I was inspired by Becca's Bookopoly at Becca in the Books, and then The Wheel of TBR from Cody's Book Corner. So I'll link those two in particular down below so that you can get a sense of what they've been up to. And I'm going to commit to this for about a year so that I can get the full experience and really hopefully make a dent into my backlist books. That's why I started Litland as a project, is because I recently calculated that I have about over 300, I think it's like 323 books that are unread on my shelves. So I've had to have a bit of a talk with myself and be like, hi, sweetheart, please stop. Because I realized that I like to buy books just as much as I like to read them. So with the exception of my bookish subscription boxes, I'm going to really try to cull back on my spending and only go on a book haul when I have reached the very end of my Litland journey. I have a whole up close and personal tour of the board that I will show you before we get into this so that you can see what we're actually working with, but I also wanted to get into the rules. So, the rules for Litland as a TBR game are as follows. I will be doing 5 pulls of the cards, the little individual cards that have colored squares on them, a month, and typically those squares have a colored square, sometimes they have 2. So with 5 pulls, I could be reading as few as 5 books or as many as 10, depending on the card draw. So on average, I tend to read about 6 books a month, unless there's like a readathon pushing me to be a little overachiever. So I think this is doable for me, but also has a bit of a thrill and a challenge. There are also some challenge squares and some challenges that are a little bit more oriented towards being stuck based on the original Candyland rules, and I'll show off those when I show you the board in a minute. But the other rule that is going to be important for this TBR game is that if I don't finish a book or books in a month, I have 2 options. I can either unhaul it then and there, or I can roll it over into the next month. And this is inspired by some of the rules that Cody from Cody's Book Corner has put into her TBR game. So if I choose to roll that book over into the next month, I have to read it that next month, or else it's an automatic unhaul. Some months, you just don't have as much time as you'd like to read, so I wanted to leave myself a little wiggle room, but if I don't finish it in the next month, I have to unhaul it. The catch here, or the punishment, is that anytime I unhaul a book from this game, I have to draw another card, making my total, 6 or 7 draws for the month, depending on how questionable my reading choices have been. The only exception to this is that I am not going to count DNF books towards this, because if I'm not feeling a book, if it's just really not working for me, then it just needs to, get out of my life. I just need to not be reading it, and I don't want to count that towards punishment. If it's something that I'm just kind of continually deliberately avoiding and putting off, then that's something that I kind of need to get myself into shape with that. So those are the really basic rules of Litland. So I'm going to get us started by having you look at the close-up tour of the board so that you can understand. I will show you some of the challenge cards, some of the stuck cards that are also challenges, and explain a little bit more about what those are up close and personal with the board. And then we will get into picking my TBR for the month of April. Okay, so here is our big overview of Litland. I'm doing this on my cell phone, so I apologize for the shaky footage. But I wanted to give you this overview, which is kind of where we're mostly going to be seeing this game from. But then I'm going to take you in close and explain some of the rules and ways that I kind of built and designed this game so that you could get a better look at the board. In place of the traditional Candyland characters, I have these genres that I love and will read frequently from. So each of those is like where a character was originally. And then if you're curious, what I ended up making
the board proper out of is I went to a thrift store and picked up a bunch of like really beat up books for a couple of bucks. And so you'll notice some Harry Potter, which felt a little bit like sacrilege to rip up Harry Potter, but they were definitely books that had seen better days in terms of care. I have some fairy tales, so like Tales from Arabian Nights is here. I have some dictionary pages, so it's just a bunch of different book pages, and then everything else I kind of like hand sketched out or lettered myself. So I modeled my little mini Caitlin E off of the original Candyland kids, but this is just hardcore me with her little scrunchie and her hair in a ponytail. I love overalls, so like this is me. Did I dress during the proper video to match my little Litland self? Maybe. And she also has a library card in hand. But more importantly, she has the color key right here. I may end up wanting to change this after we've reached like a quarter of participating in Litland, just to see if this still accurately reflects the kind of books that I have in my life and my shelves. But for right now, we have yellow for young adult, orange for fantasy and sci-fi. I did combine these two genres, even though I acknowledge that they are very different, because I don't read a ton of sci-fi, but wanted a way to include it in here overall that wasn't in the miscellaneous. But red for romance, green for historical, blue for nonfiction, and then purple for my miscellaneous. So that would include like my graphic novels, my poetry, my mystery or thrillers, things that I'm not reading as frequently or don't own with the same amount of frequency, but still love to include in my overall reading habits. So then we'll be using Fair Piglet here, little pig, who I don't have a name for right now. I should probably name her or him. I haven't decided, but you can help me figure that out in the comments if you like. Yeah, and then so we have our start. And then I changed some of the bridges, and I think over time, to make it interesting, the bridges could also change depending on what made the most sense. But right now, I thought like Bestseller Boulevard was a good flip, because I wanted to potentially read something that was on the bestseller list. Because sometimes I resist bestsellers way longer than I should, because I just don't buy into the hype, even though I end up loving them. So this is kind of to force me to follow in on that trend and actually read a bestseller. And as we move along, you can see that most of the major genres have a challenge card. And so like this will be the exact same as original Candyland, where you would get a like little pink square and it would make you go back to whatever character. So in this case, there would be a little card with a pink square that would say like miscellaneous on it. And then I would have to draw one of these purple cards. The purple cards are intended to be like more positive or inspiring challenges that get me jazzed to read about a new book. Whenever possible, I'm going to try to make sure that I match the challenge card to the genre, but some of the challenge cards do not permit that because some of them can be kind of specific, so it'll depend. But like this one says best books from Goodreads, so like their annual best of the year, I would pull something from one of the genres, and because it would be miscellaneous, it would be kind of my choice in that way. Maybe a graphic novel, a mystery or thriller, but one of the best books from Goodreads. Nonfiction is here. Nonfiction is the only one of our main genres that doesn't have its own little tabby, because nonfiction fit here the best, and there wasn't a natural pink square nearby. But that's okay. I actually don't own too many nonfiction books, so I'm not as worried about filling in that genre. But back to our path. We have a challenge square for historical. And then here we have the out of comfort zone trail. And so I just kind of wanted to address, I believe one of these bridges was originally like a rainbow bridge in Candyland, at least that's what I remember from when I was growing up. But I wanted to change that up because I thought if I allowed myself to go the natural route of keeping it a rainbow bridge and making that my LGBTQIA plus challenge, then I thought like I would only limit myself in that way. I would be really tempted to just like save them all for crossing the bridge, but I don't want to fall into that bad habit. And I want to make sure that I am reading uh, authors of many different perspectives whenever possible as I play this board. So I changed it to Out of Comfort Zone Trail so that I would maybe be reading something that I wouldn't typically read in terms of genre or maybe style, maybe an audiobook, just like something that I don't normally do, so that it would shake up my reading habits in that way, which I don't do as frequently as reading other voices. So just wanted to kind of explain why that's the way it is, but we have another space for young adult. And then these. There are 3 of these little like black dots, and in the original game, these were all like places where you would get stuck, and you would have to basically forfeit your turn and then keep drawing till you got another color that matched the one you were stuck on. I'm not going to run it like that, but I am going to, any of these dots, I'm going to have to draw a green card, which have challenges that reflect how I get stuck as a reader, or things that sometimes intimidate me and make me not want to read the books. So again, like with the little pink squares, I will try to match the genre whenever possible, but sometimes the challenge may supersede that. So for example, read a book from an author whose other work you didn't like. Because I don't know about you, but once I don't like something from a particular author, it's not exactly the most encouraging for me to try again with them. But this is a really good challenge for something like that. So it wouldn't keep me stuck in terms of moving forward. Like if I got a double yellow, I would go 1, 2, but I would have to, for one of those, have to address that challenge. Let me know if you think I should add a couple more of these, because I was tempted to make the number of stuck squares match the number of challenge squares, but let me know what you think. All right, onward. We have romance, another stuck square, fantasy and sci-fi. And then here's graphic novel. This is the one that is not one of my main genres, but I thought it would be a really exciting challenge square because I have so many graphic novels that I haven't really at all delved into. And so this is a part of my collection that really needs some extra TLC and love. And then our last stuck square, a little mystery peekaboo. And then basically when I start getting into this territory, if I land on an orange and then my next draw is a blue, we can kind of count this space after the purple as kind of like a rainbow, like anything that doesn't drag me back to say another point on the board would count towards gaining my ultimate victory, my book haul. So that's how that's going to work. That's how that's going to run. I'm open to suggestions, and I would really love as we go along to like continue to build more challenges together. Any ideas you have are totally welcome. But yeah, let's actually play this thing. I'll be moving across with this adorable tiny porcelain pig. This will be our avatar moving through Litland. Put that at start. Okay, so 1 yellow.
All right, so our first poll was 1 yellow square, which is young adult. And I think what I'm gonna do, I wanted to explain this because I've never actually said anything about this on my channel. Back here, these books back here are what I call my priority shelf. They are all books that are either being used for a video that I'm working on, or they are books that didn't get read during readathons or other TBR events. So I will be pulling with priority any of these books so that I can accomplish those other videos and goals ASAP. This is also typically where I put some of like my book box books so that I can actually read them in a timely manner. I will be trying to pull from there whenever possible. Hopefully at least a couple books a month come off of my priority shelf. So let's see what we can do about young adults. Winterwood by Shay Earnshaw. Now, this is an Owl Crate book. It's beautiful, like the exclusive copy or cover. To be honest with you, I'm not always the hugest fan of Owl Crate's exclusive covers, but I think this one's really pretty and really gorgeous. And I love that it has blue sprayed edges. Owl Crate almost never does this, but so pretty. This is going to be my YA pick.
Do there. Okay.
All right. Pull number 2 was One Blue Square for nonfiction. I already know what I'm going to pick for this because it works for one of my OWLs, and it's on a video that I don't think I've put on my channel yet, but you'll be seeing more of this book when I post my These Books Will Self-Destruct video in a couple of weeks. But I'm already going to take a pull from it and do this nonfiction book, which is called Harry Potter and Philosophy. It's an edited volume of, mini arguments or essays on philosophy. It's edited by Gregory Bassam. According to the cover, all 7 books in the series are covered within this Harry Potter and Philosophy. This book has been on my shelves for so long, and it's moved with me like 5 or 6 times since college. So I really just want to get to it and make a call about it one way or the other. So this will be my blue nonfiction pick.
Oh no, 2 orange. Oh, sweet. So I can go this way. So one of my 2 fantasy or sci-fi picks has to come from a bestseller list because I crossed bestseller boulevard. And then there we go there.
All right, so it's our first 2 square of the game, and thankfully it is a 2 orange square, which is fantasy or sci-fi. I just came off of a readathon where I was reading a lot of romance, so I'm loving that we have some picks that are other than romance so that I can kind of refresh my brain a little bit. But the first one that came up, I got an orange square, which took us across bestseller boulevard. So I had to do some hunting, and I'm really excited about what makes sense for this because according to the New York Times bestseller for like March 20th, this one's on number 9 for bestseller boulevard. I have been just so ready to read this. Everybody's reading it, everybody's doing reviews. I am a Sarah J. Maas stan. I just love all of her books. I'm really excited about this, and this definitely counts as a fantasy and a bestseller for getting us across bestseller boulevard. Right. For my second fantasy orange square, I could pick kind of anything that went into fantasy or sci-fi, so I am going to go with The Iron Codex by David Mack. This is the second book in the Dark Arts series, and I read the first one, which was The Midnight Front, sometime last year, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a good 4-star, and then I just couldn't stop thinking about it. So when this came out in paperback, I snapped it up, and I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I can tell you a little bit about The Midnight Front and then Iron Codex without giving too many spoilers away for the series overall. So on the back cover, it describes itself as Doctor Strange meets Jason Bourne. So the first book, The Midnight Front, takes place during World War II, where individuals are using sorcery and summoning demons to help combat the Nazis. And the Nazis are also summoning demons and using sorcery, so it's like a secret. The Midnight Front is the secret front of World War II that involved wizards and the demonarchies. And so it was really dark, gritty fantasy that I just ended up loving. I'm kind of a sucker for like World War II, World War I era, not historical novels, so this combined fantasy and that space really well. The second book takes place many years after the first, with the continuity of events, but this one takes place during more of what we would consider like the Cold War. And so we're following multiple perspectives along both novels, and I'm really looking forward to see where the sequel goes. I hope I enjoyed it as much as I did the first one, but that is going to be my second fantasy pick for the month of April.
Ooh, red for romance.
The fourth pick was a 1 red square, which means romance. I know I just said that I was like, oh, it's so nice to have a palate cleanser. I just read all this romance. Well, I pulled a romance square. So what I'm gonna pick, I think, is not a historical one because I just went through a whole readathon of historical romance, but there's a lot in that genre that, does not fall under historical romance. So let me see what I can pick. Oh, this is actually perfect because I just did my Ripped Bodice unboxing where I got sent a care package from the wonderful romance-centric bookstore, The Ripped Bodice. And so there were a bunch of different genres in there, and I'm going to pick one of those. So I'm going to pick the book that, got me most excited, that I laughed so hard in reading the back cover, which is Dr. Bad Boy. I highly recommend checking out that Ripped Bodice unboxing video because I had a blast filming it. But it is, this is by Ainsley Booth and Sadie Haller, and it is an erotic romance that seems to, from my understanding of back cover, deal with some BDSM, which is a total switch up from my historical romance readathon readings. Violet is has basically a very steamy, submissive one-night stand with Max, and then comes to find herself seated across from him in the boardroom where she is not intending to submit at all, but he's super intrigued by her, and they're one passionate night together. So this is something I was really excited to read based off my unboxing. I am obsessed with the back cover because, again, just go watch that video, but there's like a diagnosis and a prescription because it's medical themed, and I just think this is the most clever back cover. So this is part of why I wanted to choose Dr. Bad Boy for my romance pick for April.
And then our final draw for the month of April. Purple.
All right, and our final pull for April's Litland is 1 purple, which is a miscellaneous. As I explained, I kind of want miscellaneous to be, not quite a mood read square, but kind of just give me some freedom to read things that I don't read a ton of. So things like graphic novels. I have a pretty big graphic novel collection that I haven't dipped into that much, like thrillers or horror. Occasionally, I would even consider like literary fiction to be part of miscellaneous because I don't tend to read just like hard-hitting literary fiction that often. But I think given the rest of my books for the month, given the rest of my TBR for the month, I think I want to pick something that would be like a little bit light and easy to get through. So I'm thinking maybe a graphic novel. I'm gonna do Bloodlust and Bonnets by Emily McGovern. I've had this one on my shelves for a couple of months. This was kind of an auto buy for me because Emily McGovern runs one of my favorite webcomics. You should check her out. I will link her Instagram below because that is where I found her. And she runs a killer webcomic called My Life as a Background Slytherin. And then so she put out this Bloodlust and Bonnets comic that is basically just like a delightful farce of Austen and Byron and like all of these mad bad adventures. So yeah, okay, hey, I described it pretty well. The back cover says that it's a hilarious pastiche of classic romantic literature led by a trio of queer misfits and several angry vampires. So I'm super pumped about this. I'm also glad to hear that there's like queer rep in here as well. I'm excited to see where this goes. Yeah, I really like her kind of art style as well. It's very just, I don't want to say like blocky because that's not the right word, but it's just kind of straightforward, really good saturated colors. I'm so excited to read this, and this I think will be a great pairing with the rest of what we got going on for April. So that is my April Litland for my first ever attempt at a TBR game. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this goes. I have 6 books in total here. That will be part of April's Litland. I am probably most excited for Sarah J. Maas's House of Earth and Blood, aka the Crescent City series. So this baby is probably going to get read first. It's also the thickest of my tomes for the month, so I think that's probably one I will lead with. The one I'm least excited for is Harry Potter and Philosophy, but we shall do our best to get through this as well. Let me know what you think of this whole process down in the comments below. If you have any ideas for more challenges that I can add to my card stack or more of the stuck cards, let me know about those as well. Yeah, I'm just so excited to share this with you. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Thanks for spending some time with me. I hope you have a fantastic reading day. Like and subscribe if you want to see more from this channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye!